Good afternoon, everyone. Sir Jude here, and this is the video lecture for our lesson this morning, which is about nucleic acids. Okay, so what are nucleic acids? So nucleic acids are actually one of the four biomolecules or macromolecules of life. It belongs to uh, it's one of the subcategories of biomolecules or macromolecules, such as the other three are carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids or fats. No? So the basic or rather the building blocks of nucleic acids are called nucleotides. And whenever you hear nucleic acids such as DNA and RNA, they especially play an active role when it comes to genetic transmission. So last week, with reproductive system, menstrual cycle, and calendar method, we I discussed to you how organisms form by the union of or the fertilization of the sperm and egg cell. When is it the best time for a couple to have safe sex? And when is it the best time also for a woman to get pregnant? So now, our goal for this entire week until next week is to show to you how traits are being passed on from the parents to the offspring using nucleic acids. To be honest, this lesson is quite rigid and in a way boring because this is the foundation of everything that we will tackle sometime in the future. But let's just stick first with the structure for today. So as I mentioned, the two famous nucleic acids are DNA and RNA. So DNA is an acronym standing for deoxyribonucleic acid, while RNA is an acronym which stands for ribonucleic acid. So based on their three-dimensional appearance, the DNA appears to be a double-stranded staircase helix. So para siyang hagdanan na paikot, no? Or trintas ng sa buhok ng babae. While for ribonucleic acid, RNA, it's only simply single-stranded. Ayan. So next, let's go into the three parts of nucleotide and how the DNA and RNA are different from each other structurally. So the first part of sorry, no. When discussing this lesson to you this morning, I use a lot of figures and shapes because this is a topic that is, I would say, college level in a way that there are a lot of bonds, there are a lot of terminologies that when discussed to you, especially we only have 45 minutes per session, you will have a hard time digesting. So instead, I use several shapes. So for both DNA and RNA nucleotide, no, they're composed of three parts. One that is shaped in circle, that is attached to a pentagon, and then another shape, hexagon, that's also attached to a pentagon. So the best way to start with the parts is to the one wherein the two shapes are attached with. So and that's what we call the 5-carbon sugar. So that's the orange pentagon for the DNA and the brown pentagon for RNA. The 5-carbon sugar for DNA is called deoxyribose, and this is probably the reason why DNA is called deoxyribonucleic acid, while the 5-carbon sugar for RNA is called the ribose. Hence the reason why RNA is called ribonucleic acid. Okay, next. Let's now move on to the two structures that are attached to the 5-carbon sugar. And the next one is attached to carbon number 1, the hexagon shape. We call that the nitrogenous bases. So as mentioned, the nitrogenous bases are attached at carbon number 1. For DNA, there are four possible bases. You have G paired with C, vice versa. They're always paired together. You have A, which is always paired with E, vice versa as well. But for RNA, the base pairings are now different. The one that is retained is the bond pair between G and C, while in this case, A is now partnered with letter U. So you might be wondering, no, what do those letters stand for? So, the nitrogenous bases po kasi are divided into two categories. So, you have purines and pyrimidines. Under purines, you have guanine and adenine. So, you see two rings, no? One five-membered ring on top and one six-membered ring at the bottom. And for pyrimidines, you have cytosine, uracil, and thymine. Again, if at this point in the discussion, you're being thrown off by the number of unfamiliar words to you, remember that because this is another uncharted territory for you. We just came last week from follicle stimulating hormone, then vas deferens, then fallopian tubes, then luteal phase, and then safe sex. So we had an abundance of information last week, and we also you will be have an abundance of information that's totally different from what we tackled last week. That's why uh I'm gonna let you um take things slowly but surely when it comes to this lesson. Anyway, going back. So sir, how are we going to have how are we going to absorb the nitrogenous bases easily, no? So I underlined some of the words, no, para magamit niyo ang acronyms. So for purines, remember purga. So purines, then we have guanine and adenine. So it's purga. While for pyrimidines, you have purcat because under pyrimidines, you have cytosine, uracil, and thymine. Now, uh, I almost forgot, no? Compared to purines, pyrimidines only have one membered ring and that's hexagonal shape. Okay? Now, another consideration for the difference between the nitrogenous bases for DNA and RNA is that, as you notice, for DNA, you only have guanine, cytosine, adenine, and thymine. That's because DNA molecules has no or have no uracil. While on the other hand, RNA molecules only contain guanine, cytosine, adenine, and uracil. This time, RNA molecules have no thymine. Okay? Now, one calculation that's often that revolves around DNA molecules is what we call the Chargaff's rule. According to Chargaff's rule, no, by the way, this rule determines the percentage of each nitrogenous base in a DNA molecule. Okay? So let's have our first problem. If a DNA molecule has 35% guanine, how many percent are cytosine, adenine, thymine, and uracil? So let's solve. Let me just get my tablet for a while. Eto, no? So we have five bases. So we have guanine, then cytosine, adenine, thymine, and then uracil. What's given is that we have 35% of guanine already. So we're going to solve for the percentage of the remaining nitrogenous bases. So let's start with guanine's partner. Guanine is always paired with cytosine. So if guanine is already 35%, then therefore it's safe to assume that cytosine will also be 35% as well. So one down, three to go. Next, collectively as a team, guanine and cytosine are already 70%. So, if the total percentage of these five must be 100%, and we already have 70% courtesy of guanine and cytosine, then that means the sum of percentages of adenine and thymine must be 30% because they are partners in the DNA molecule. And these 30% will be divided equally into adenine and thymine. So 30% divided by 2 will be 15%. Ayan. Alright? Now, we only have the percentage of uracil. And as we established from the previous slide, DNA molecules do not have uracil at all. So that means the percentage of uracil is simply 0. And there you have it. This is how we determine the percentage of each nitrogenous base in a DNA molecule. So given that guanine is 35% of the DNA molecule, we expect cytosine to be 35% as well. Both adenine and thymine to be 15% each, while no uracil present in the strand. Okay, next. Okay, number 2. If a DNA molecule has 10% thymine, how many percent are um, adenine, cytosine, and guanine? Let me use another color of ink. This one, color red. So let me just list all the bases first. So thymine is given, and then adenine, cytosine, guanine, and then uracil. All in all, the sum of the percentages must be 100%. Thymine's percentage was already given to be 10%. So that means because its partner is adenine, adenine is also expected to be 10%. Now, when you combine thymine and adenine, they make up 20% of the DNA strand. That means the portion allotted for cytosine and guanine will be 100% minus 20%, which is 80%. And because cytosine and guanine are partners, they will have an equal share of the remaining percentage. So 80% divided by 2 is 40%. And because this is a DNA molecule, we don't expect any uracil to come up with, in each or in any portion of the strand. So uracil is 0%. So going back to the question, if a DNA molecule is 10% thymine, therefore there will be 10% adenine, 40% cytosine, 40% guanine, and 0% uracil. This is the only problem solving part when it comes to this lesson. All right, let me just erase the writings. Now, we already spent too much time of this lesson involving the nitrogenous bases. So it's now time to finally tackle the last portion or the last part of the nucleotide, no? And that's the one represented in black circle. That's what we call the phosphate group. The phosphate group is attached at carbon number 5. And that's it for the phosphate group. Now, so what better way to analyze the similarities and differences of a DNA and an RNA in terms of their nucleotide components? So again, the three parts of a nucleotide are, start with number 1, the sugar, a 5-carbon sugar to be exact, in which the DNA sugar is called deoxyribose, while the RNA sugar is called ribose. Now, Let's now move on to the two groups attached to the 5 carbon sugar. The one attached at the first carbon, so we call the nitrogenous bases. And for DNA, we have four. We have guanine, cytosine, adenine, and thymine. So para mas madaling matandaan, use the acronym GCAT. While for RNA, no, we have guanine, cytosine, adenine, and uracil. Use the acronym GCAW. And lastly, the one attached at carbon number 5 is what we call the phosphate group. So for those of you who are still confused, no? Ayan. Ito po yung actual chemical structures po ng deoxyribose and ribose sugars, the nitrogenous bases, as well as the phosphate groups. This is not how I presented to you this earlier this morning because again, there are too many complex bonds na I don't think that was tackled to you way back in grade 9 and grade 8 when you had your chemistry because the way these atoms are arranged, this is more of chemistry kasi no, even though its inclusion right now but falls under the biology section of grade 10. But yeah, this is how the three parts of the nucleotides look like structurally. Okay, so let's have a review, no? So let me read the problem in the brown box. So I have a 5 carbon ribose with guanine as well as a phosphate group. I can only be single-stranded. What am I? So choosing between the two nucleic acids, we have DNA and RNA. The nucleic acid on the left is most like an RNA because of two clues. So it explicitly stated that we have a 5 carbon ribose and it's single stranded. That's why it's RNA. While the sentence or the problem on the right, no, you have a 5 carbon deoxyribose with adenine as well as a phosphate group. I can be double stranded. What am I? So on the right, we have a DNA molecule because of, once again, two clues. So there's a 5 carbon deoxyribose and its appearance of that of being a double stranded spiral staircase. Okay, so now let's compare and contrast DNA and RNA in terms of the following properties. Say DNA if the phrase's character is DNA, RNA if RNA, and both for both, obviously. Number one has ribose. This is RNA. Number two has deoxyribose. This is DNA. Number three has uracil. This is exclusively for RNA only. Remember, DNA has no U. Number four has adenine. This would be both. Remember, GCAT for DNA, GCAL for RNA. Number five has thymine. This is exclusive for DNA only. Remember, RNA has no T. Number six has guanine. This is both. Remember, GCAT and GCAL. Number seven has cytosine. Just like in number six, this is both. Number eight has a phosphate group, also both. Number nine is single-stranded RNA. And finally, number 10 is double-stranded, that is DNA. All right, so that's it for our video lecture for today. We will have more of this topic tomorrow. Till then, this is Sir Jude. Goodbye.